Hello and welcome, I'm DrHamfist, but you know what, before I actually explain this deck, you guys want to see the combo? Let's do this. Let's play the combo. Let's kill this thing off to make some room on our board. You play Aviana. You play Kun for mana, of course. Let's go ahead and just swap the decks. Now we're only going to be giving him, our cards. If we naturalize something, we can just blow up this frag with that. He's going to draw some fatigue. He's going to get the last card from our deck. And then we could play something else we wanted to from our hand. I think we'll just see what he's holding on to. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, so what you just saw, that is my new favorite combo in the game. It uses the new card, Azalina Soulthief, which we just got in Witchwood, right? So replace your hand with a copy of your opponent's. That probably is designed on its own just to be used in like an aggressive list where you dump your hand, you've got nothing, you top deck this, get a copy of your controller combo opponent's hand, which has a lot of gas in it. That's like this card on its own. But when you copy their hand and you've given them the King's Ransom, you get a King's Ransom. And that means they can never get their deck back, which is awesome. And I like that way better. So I did some experimentation with this out in Standard, but I think it works best in Wild just because you still have access to Aviana Kun. You could maybe try something with Twig, or maybe try something with, new Aviana, that horrible version of her. But I think it'll be most consistent in Wild, and it's actually semi-competitive. I would definitely say this is an unrefined list right now that I'm working on. So that's going to be part of its glaring flaws. I think it has really bad matchups into Big Priest, despite the fact I just beat one. Kingsbane Rogue. And it's largely the fact that they have a lot of punch in their deck, even if you take the rest of it. And that rest of the deck you get doesn't do much, right? Like Kingsbane Rogue, if you don't get the Kingsbane, they're kind of fine. And they can sort of just burn you out. And then against Big Priest, your res copies don't really do much for you. So those are two particularly bad matchups, I would say. And then sometimes against Giants Lock, you just don't have, or really any Giants list. You could run more Poison Seeds to try to counter that. I'm only running one right now. So if you wanted to shore up Giants, I would probably just run more Poison Seeds. And then in general, I would say the deck struggles the most with aggro. I've experimented with it a few different ways. I'm currently running Witchwood Piper so that I can tech out Hemet really quickly. But when I'm seeing Paladin everywhere, which was true day one of the Witchwood expansion, I tried instead running Wild Pyro. And the gimmick there is you run a whole bunch of cheap spells. You still run Hemet, so you can just burn everything, but you run Wild Pyromancer and then Doomsayers and Acolyte of Pains, and you run weird stuff like Bark Skin, right? Give a minion plus 3 health, or give yourself 3 armor and a minion plus 3 health. So playing this on a Pyro, you get it up to a 3/4 Pyro, you perform a Whirlwind, you get 3 armor. It's actually a lot of value for just 1 mana, but only when you have the Pyro too. So I would say there's a lot of directions you could take this deck. You could try running a second Witchwood Piper, then you tech out the first Witchwood Piper into the second when you play this, that's what you tutor for, but then you have 2 different copies of Witchwood Piper you can find. So it makes it so you have to play both before you can find your Hemet. But if you're dropping Witchwood Piper on turn 4, you can just drop the second one on turn 5 and still play an on-curve Hemet. And the other nice thing is, if you play Hemet before Witchwood Piper, if you just draw Hemet first, Witchwood Piper then actually tutors for combo pieces. So I do really like the Witchwood Piper variant. If it's totally overrun with aggro when you're running them against the meta, I would probably just go swap this out, play some cheap minions, try to actually play a bit of a lower curve. You could also try putting in some other larger minions. I really like the inclusion of Reno. So the trick with Reno is you can play him after you've burnt your whole list, and you can do it right in the middle of the combo. So the ordering would be Aviana, then Kun, and then before you swap decks, even though your deck isn't a Reno deck, by the time you've burnt your deck, it is a singleton list, right? So then you play Reno. It costs 1 mana because you've got Aviana out. You get a 4/6, you get full health, then you continue with the rest of the combo. You then swap decks and trade with them. And in particular, I think I showed it when I was showing you the combo. We've got the Naturalize you can drop in the middle. Super, super good. You play it right after Togwaggle. They just get your cards. They do not get 2 of their cards, and your cards aren't useful for closing out the game. And if you've actually deleted your entire deck, it just fatigues them. So Naturalize is like a super awesome silver bullet card for the middle of the combo. I would never ever cut those. If you wanted to experiment and like cut some of the cards here, I think Ferocious Howl is particularly weak. Also lesser Jasper Spellstone. One thing you can do is if you're running into a ton of Dirty Rat because of combo lists, you can keep in Ferocious Howls and actually get a Witchwood Apple. Or maybe even two. It's definitely a bad card, but if you're just totally running into Dirty Rat, it gives you 3 minions that might get pulled instead of your combo pieces. So that's actually like kind of a viable option. If you're going to do that, I would definitely cut Ultimate Infestations because you're going to have a flooded hand and you'll never be able to play them. So there's a million ways you can take this combo, but if you have the cards out in Wild and you want to try this, this is a blast to play. And it really does confuse some people the first time they see it. I've had people trade back, and then when I trade back, they just like instantly concede and then friend me and are like, you're onto something. So hope you take this out for a spin and have some fun with it. Or if you want to see me experiment with this list, I'll be like working on refining it a bit and trying different variations on my stream, which is, just twitch.tv/DrHamfist. Thanks for watching. See you around.